It's Billy. Right now. Yo, what if I got attacked by the clones? What if the builder think they found a better stone? What if the beat don't match with the metronome? What if that means you walk your path alone? Call me a vagabond. If all these streets leading to Rome, then wherever I lay is my home. It's Brooklyn, boys. If I want it, I go out and get it and cop it. A monster with limitless options. Man, like goddamn, y'all gon' soon figure out who I am. We stay cooking, y'all used to that spam. Western beef, I might square up at the square dance. Look, I change plans, not even a southpaw, I'm an outlaw with a rare stance. Your crew never had a fair chance.
Why's that?
I kill a whole bear with my bare hands. Oh, they studied the dark? Well, I was raised in it. Brain shifted, the kid displayed insane physics. Best story never told, and it ain't finished. How he handled a rock, spun and kept the same pivot. I frame different, hot like a flame kitchen. A whole 2 levels out of your range gifted. Catch me on the highway, lane switching. Right at the top of your bay wish list. Right now.
Yo, what up, what up, what up?
It's Billy.
Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Yeah. That's my joint right now. Dropped that a week ago now? 7 days ago? Really love that. If you haven't heard it, check it out. This is how Billy sees it. Thanks for being here. This is December 26th, 2022. And I'm feeling good, yo. I'm feeling good. I hope everybody's feeling well. The day after Christmas. The year's about to end. What a nutty year it's been. Been a lot of growth, a lot of challenges. A lot of really dope experiences. And, if you've been watching for a bit, I talk about being present. And I think I've never achieved a status, a position, a mindset, a perspective of presentness with as much clarity and success as I think this past year. So it's been pretty cool. And, we're living it. We're living it. It's been a lot. My mom is in Guadeloupe right now, so I'm very happy to report that because she hates cold weather. So she would be in New York with all this crazy temperature, and she would be not loving it. but instead, she calls me, and she's kind of laughing at me. She's like, "What is the temperature over there?" She knows what the temperature is. She knows what the temperature is. She looked. She Googled it. She's laughing, and then it's like negative 9 if we're doing Celsius. It was like 15. I don't know the numbers on the joint. It was really cold. It was freezing. It was crazy. It's one of those, man. I remember those in New York, and I don't know if it snowed in New York, but we didn't have snow, thankfully. But we did have a ton of rain right before the snow. Right before the cold. So anyway, the conditions, we had a crazy kind of weather thing, and this tree that we have in our yard fell and landed right on top of my car, yo. And it landed right on top of my car in just the way that, it's got a little ding on it, a dent, but it's not. Didn't break any glass, obviously no one was in the car, thankfully, but pretty big tree. And it was an interesting experience even having to deal with that because, so Sheba sees it first. She was on the phone, I was in the other room, and she's like, what the tree's on the car? And so I come over and I look out the window, and yeah, the tree, just the roots, right from the root, had just been uprooted and spun over onto the car. So we put our clothes on, we go and check, and take pictures and all that. But it was nutty. And I was trying to figure out what to do. I immediately, because this is how I go, okay, so here's this thing. I think, do we need the car? We do need the car because we were gonna go to visit our sister-in-law, our sister, and chill with the kids and all that stuff. So anyway, I'm trying to figure out something, right? But when Sheba gets on her phone and she's like, I'm gonna call Zarin, and she said, I'm gonna call her brother, and it was an interesting moment because I'm like, wait, we got this. Like, why you gotta call your brother? So I had this like really reflexive kind of response that I brought it up later, and she's like, what? Zarin's really good at stuff, and he's like military, and he's really good. What's the problem? And the truth is, so like in the moment, I was like, I was looking for weak branches. I was like, let's see here. If I go over there and shake that branch, it kind of, if I kind of pull them apart a lot and make some friction, I could take a couple of those branches off, take the weight over there. And then I was looking, I was like, the roots are still kind of mostly in there. Not mostly, a lot of it all. I'd say probably 60% of the roots are pulled off, but then it's still fairly attached. Like there's a good amount. I was like, so I don't think all of the weight is on the car. I'm like, yeah, I can probably figure out. I can probably just pull out slowly and sort of navigate this, And she's about to call her brother, and I'm bothered by that. But like, it was so funny because she calls Zarin. Zarin gets on the phone. He's like, what? Oh man, she's explaining the tree situation. And he's like, what? All right, well, tracking. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna call a buddy of mine in 200 hours. He could probably get over there and da-da-da. And he has this whole plan laid out that, I'm still a little bit offended. I'm like, wait a second. I didn't even have a chance. I didn't even get a moment to have a snap at this, My identity tells me I should be, involved in this. I can fix this. I told you what my plan was, by the way, because we don't have anything here. I was gonna have to take a fork and like just kind of use the tree's own friction against it. Anyway, within like 2 hours, these guys show up. It's freezing cold. These two guys show up in their gear with chainsaws and like a whole bunch of rope, and beyond that, a lot of knowledge. They came and I came out and greeted them, and they were like, all right, hey man, they were really cool and friendly, and they're like, hey, I just wanted to come out, and I haven't used my chainsaw in years. This is a great opportunity. I can't wait to do it. Looks like a hefty job here. I was looking at the weight and the angle of this thing, and there's still a good amount of root in there, so I don't think all the weight's on it, but he was looking at other things, and he said, what we probably need to do is to take a little bit cut some stuff off early over here. And while I was trying to, in my mind, I was going to do 1 or 2 branches, like he had orchestrated a whole deal. And looking at it, there was more than 1 or 2 branches, And it wasn't the little tiny ones, This was it was a much better situation. And they were there and excited to do it, and I offered them coffee and water, and it was a brilliant thing, like listening to him and then watching them pull it off too, from the warmth and from the window, looking out at these 2 gentlemen who and they were also like, yo, just for Christmas spirit. He's like, I'm usually out of town, but my family's out here, so I'm back, and it's Christmas, and I get to use the chainsaw and help someone. Don't worry about it, man. It's great to meet you. So insane. So gave him coffee and water and tried to offer any services, any help that I had. It was honestly the best I could do to stay out of the way. So like some of the branches were so positioned that they used another branch and tied a thing around it and was like had a clank and was pulling that to take some of the weight in order to do this. There's no way I was doing any of that. I couldn't do any of that. It was not gonna. My situation would have been really different and more difficult than I initially thought. But I definitely came up with a plan, and I was ready to execute it. And I was a bit annoyed that she was so quickly about to call her brother, her talented, knowledgeable brother who has access to dudes who chop up trees for fun. That's what they do on their day off. That's what they do for Christmas Eve. That's what they do. We had the chainsaw and wanted to play around with it, and so it was incredibly helpful. This weird merger of support in a weird moment, because I think without that, the tree might still be on it at this in this moment right now, but no, they did the thing and they cut the tree up and they were so cool about it. And so yeah, again, his thing, he does like animal conservatory stuff, and they track bears, and he lives, sometimes he does long stretches in wildlife areas, and he's cool with the cold and all that. It was just amazing. So it was it was a moment for me to realize, like, when I thought about it, you know, I was annoyed, and I think it was two things. When I had the opportunity to think about it, it was this sense that I needed to do something. Like, I was supposed to be like the man. This is my house, and I want to have first dibs at the problem solving mission, right? And then I think it was that. The second was, I don't know. I just had I had a reflexive anxiety towards support, just generally. I think just generally, I'm a bit used to being in a position to have to figure it out and get it done, and it might not be the perfect solution, but it's gonna be a solution. And what's funny is to notice, real talk, that some of that is self-imposed and has been self-imposed for a bit. You know what I mean? Like, I've had, if I choose to reach out, people would be happy to, but I don't choose that often. So when I think about moving, different times I had to move in my life, a lot of times I'll just take it on. Fuck it, I'll do it. Fine. But who am I screaming at? You know what I mean? Like, who? No one hadn't really, allowed someone to deny me even you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't ask anybody. And I would just do it, and I would just move myself, get the U-Haul, get it done, you know? And it would be a point of pride at the end of the day, because then I'd be able to say that and be like, yeah, I did it, man. Come on, man. The whole damn thing, I had to move. My bed, and it's heavy, and this and that. So, but so all of that. So this moment just created a reaction, and I think it was powerful to notice that in the moment, notice it after, and really analyze it, and bounce off of Sheba, who, with Sheba, it's so funny, her orientation to life is so different, and to family is so different. you know, it made total sense to her. Zarin is the right dude for the job. Not only was Zarin the right dude for the job, but our other brother, Lloyd, is also the right dude for the job. Big dude, works in elevators, and engineering, and he also offered his help, and his dad has a chainsaw, and they were gonna come and help. And the whole time, real talk, I'm like on the phone feeling weird, like, yeah, I guess, man, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm trying not to burden them, even though they're excited to help. So in any case, we had this incredible best case scenario, which resulted in a lot of support and resulted in a lot of ease on my part. And I couldn't, and I suffered through it rather than to appreciate it and to feel that I deserved it or belonged in the space, as it was. I added a layer of perception to it that made the whole arrangement unappealing to me, And if I can frame it that way, if I can see how I do that more often, that's a powerful thing. That's a powerful thing. So once I was able to do that, man, I was laughing at the whole thing and noticing this thing about myself and saying, okay, that's something I can work on. That's something I can be better at. That's something I can see that I have an attachment to, the depth of your attachments, right? They extend even to like an attachment to pain, an attachment to earning something, that you create a narrative that this is how these experiences should be. And that's a difficult thing, because now that shows up in lots of stuff. It's not in just in one place. That's the other incredible thing I found through living, is that when you see something in one space, it is an indication of other things that are attached to that. It's a weird, powerful opportunity sometimes to have your sense of yourself and your sense of your perceptions challenged, to like extend it a bit further, you know? So that's what happened. And that's what happened. It was a powerful moment for me, and everything worked out. It was a really great, the tree is all chopped up on the side. The car is loose. Um, no one's injured. It's fantastic. We got to chill and have a great time. But I got to chill and go chill with the family and go see uh, the nieces, see Freddie, and who's Lloyd's wife, and see Mama Pat and Lloyd Sr. And Sheba's mom is on a cruise. And again, my mom is in warm weather again, also, you know, where they want to be. Um, and I just know that everybody's like having a great experience, and it felt great. And I was at the other place, and Sheba stopped drinking altogether, but I drink a little bit. But my tolerance is down a little bit for sure. So had some drinks, had some wine, and I was just feeling sleepy, but I also felt good in the environment. You know, I wanted to be around everybody. I didn't want to go to the room or the couch, the other room. You know, it was a cool moment of this, like, um, you know, everybody's there. Shantae and Jeff were there. Our other brother and sister, his brother's sister Lloyd, and like we're all in a similar age bracket, and it's like, yo, these are cool moments, yo, and you know, that's the spirit. That's it. That's what it is, man. It's perspective and looking at what now is, you know, and so I hit it, and I felt really good, and I fell asleep, and the kids were running around, the little nephews, man, they get so excited now. It's funny, their personalities are coming in, and they get excited, man. They show a lot of energy and positivity, and it's awesome. I feed off kids. I think that's why people love kids, because they're free from all this stuff, you know, and there's an innocence. That shit is real about that, about the innocence. But like when you take a lot of times when people say innocence, they haven't removed their bias from what they mean when they say innocence, and so they're talking about a very specific thing, a very specific presentation for what innocence is, and you don't realize that you're talking about something from your perspective. So for a lot of men, innocence is related to sex. There's a idea that there's a perversion, there's a loss of innocence after virginity. But even for children, for small children, there's an innocence related to, like, exactly like I said, a lot of times it's sex, that, but it's like it's broader than that. There's an absence of the perception. There's an absence of the broader assumptions and norms that the rest of us have been deeply indoctrinated into in each of our different spaces, in our cultures, in our different land masses, in our different political realms, and our religious and social circumstances, um, the narratives and the discourse and the language that we use, the assumptions, the fears, the anxieties. All of that is still yet to be filled in. So there's just an innocence. There's truly uh, something like a clean slate. I don't know, clean slate. That used to make sense to me, but that also doesn't feel fully right, because there's always the child. You know, there's always the person, the perceiver, the what an interesting thing. Anyway, I think it's awesome to respect how interesting innocence is. And I tie that back because, the kids don't have any, what I just described about myself, that anxiety over receiving assistance, that anxiety over receiving love, or any anxiety. I'm describing to you mine, but yours are yours, and they're different. So it's like, if I try to describe that to Letty or to Layla, they won't understand what I'm talking about. Like, for them, like, why would you turn down the opportunity for, like, Layla will drink milk. She loves milk, man. Why would you turn it down? Like, why would you turn down access to love, or the thing that you appreciate, or what, like, for me, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing that is entirely my own, and I have to be mindful to not pass these on to her. You see what I'm saying? So that's something that came up in my thinking. It's like, you have this, like, awareness of the moment, and the capacity to do it. I think kids are more readily there. I think one of the things we pick up in our narratives, in our senses of selves, this time component is huge for us, and a lot less so for kids. And so, allowing for the freedom of their exploration without strictures of time, you know inculcating urgency is something interesting. Anyway, I'm gonna go down a whole other path, yo, and I love that, and we should go down that. I think it's all related, but um, I do have some, I guess, other stuff I want to talk about, but it is all related. It's like, it's a beautiful thing to allow each other as much space to be ourselves in the present, and to experience in the present as possible. It's like a cool goal. The goal is to, and then we could call that something like flourishing, I think. That's an interesting word. Let's see. Kids trust their needs will be met. When they call out for help, someone will give it to them. Yeah, certainly. You start with that, and then at some point, these kinds of challenges arise, and you start to realize it doesn't necessarily work out that way. And for many of us, it doesn't work out that way at all. And as you get older, that whole thing gets erased altogether. That sense, right? That sense that their needs will be met. But I do think that there are people who understand. I think there's a healthy, and it shows up in something that looks like confidence. This healthy sense that the needs will be met, a healthy sense that a goal will be achieved, a healthy sense that the voice will be heard, the opinion is valid. Talking about my own, right? Some kids don't have that. That, I think, demonstrates the opposite. The kids have been ripped from their sense that needs will be met, and from that innocence, Yeah. Yeah. But Christmas and family, man. It's been amazing. Shout to my other family. Like I said, my mom is in Antigua, and my mom is in Guadeloupe with her sisters, with my aunts, with my cousins. Shout to my aunts and cousins in Philly, and Adrian and Madeline and Jimmy and Jason and Janine, and shout to the family, my dad in Antigua, and my brothers. And yeah, I think I felt a lot of joy and presence, and I'm wanting to be that. Yeah, going back to the thing, like, for me, a lot of my life, my definition of family has been my mom and my brothers. It's just been my mom and my brothers, and very kind of tightly, and the things we went through were together, and my stepdad for a period as well. And so to have this transition into a broader definition, and to receive the fullness and the benefits of what that means, and to receive it is a mind fuck. It can be. And for some people, if it's not like addressed and well understood, you know, you can stay in these kind of ruts. You can stay in places. You can be perceiving things, but not the moment, but not the beauty of the moment. You will be adding layers to it, you know? Yeah. So it's been interesting to kind of be working on that. Okay. Yeah, yo. We got, what is this, 27? I think I want to talk a little bit about stuff going on in the world and stuff in the news. Big news. Sean Hannity of Fox News admits under oath in a deposition that, let's see if we go right here. Zoom. Admits in a deposition, sworn testimony under oath, he did not believe for 1 second about Trump's fraud election claims. Not for 1 second did he believe it. And of course, this is completely contradictory to the position and the people that he platformed and the ideas that he and other people across that news station, Fox News, what they propagated. This is pretty interesting stuff. It's interesting to see it not being like huge news. It's really getting spread mostly on like Reddit and Twitter and places like Quora and other social media, which is interesting, which tells me a bit about the value and the importance of social media. I'm drinking water today. But it's like, if you didn't know already that Fox News is a place for massive propaganda and bullshit and harm, then now you know. Now it's 100% clear. Fox News declines to comment. They're also in the middle of a court case with Dominion voting, the voting machine systems, where Fox News made claims that central to the point that Donald Trump was the true and rightful, winner of the election, that those machines were fraudulent, and all kinds of other claims were being put on there from Giuliani and Sidney Powell and other clowns. So one of the central things that it seems Dominion has to prove is that Fox did what they did. They showed what they put on air, even though they knew that they were lying, even though they knew that they were wrong. And so, look, I've been saying that they shouldn't need that. They shouldn't have to be proving what's in the minds of people. I've seen some people have been trying to interpret this in very narrow terms. And, the Dominion lawyers are going to have to prove, what was Hannity thinking and when, at what times. And it's like, the question is, what does Hannity do for a living? What does he do? Are you kidding me? What does he do? He says whatever Donald Trump tells him to say. That's his job. That's his role. It's weird. Some of these takes are weird. So now we realize that's what it was. Yeah. He knew. But he is a talking boy on the #1 cable news channel in the United States. He's a talking boy for the ex-president, twice impeached, disgraced president who's selling garbage pail kids cards of himself now because he's on to new grifts. And Sean Hannity should have to be on to new grifts, I imagine. This should be interesting. I'm very interested to see how his viewer base deals with this new information. You see, because I think what's important, I've been trying to talk about journalism and its importance and how we can cultivate an ecosystem for journalism that actually serves us, right? So, one of the things we'll have to do is obviously move on from Sean Hannity and people like him. We'll have to understand that our public discourse is important and meaningful, and that we should allow as many voices as possible. And then we need to be discerning and figure out who are the good, meaningful, genuine voices and who are the disingenuous, hurtful voices. Now, Sean Hannity is one of the more prominent loudmouths on a team of people that led to a lot of confusion, that led to the events on January 6th, where at least 4 people were murdered and they attacked an important symbol of American democracy, the U.S. Capitol. So I just think it's important to observe, who we are. As I've said in a previous video, I'm going to watch and see how the ratings go, see if Sean Hannity even has to publicly address this, and how they try to correct themselves, but mostly how we respond to it. Because if Sean Hannity continues to be a successful newsman, it will be a signal to us. We'll be able to see ourselves and say, oh, there's a significant portion of the U.S. population that is not interested in reality, is not interested in truth, that they turn on the news in order to hear the kinds of things that excite them, right? Because if you want to be entertained, you can turn on Netflix and go see a fiction show. You want to hear about people, overtaking the border, go watch a zombie flick or something. You want to hear about the bad guys and something like, there's all these streaming services that have all this creative content. But if you go to the news to fulfill this kind of desire, like your interest isn't truth, that's something to know about self. Because how can we construct systems and democracies and things like this? How can we construct a meaningful and useful discourse if we aren't that? And I think it's important to do that, because then it can point out for us too a lot of the myths we have in our culture, myths around being logical and things like this. We can be aware of our biases. We can be aware of how we operate, and that these biases and these operational subtleties that seem to be sometimes subconscious, but that they are powerfully there, that these show up in the systems that we create, and in the language that we create, and in the norms and in the laws, for sure. And this can just help us see things better. That's going to be huge, because there's no way a person at Fox News, the number one news, like they love to boast that, can tell you that he didn't believe it for a second, says that under oath, but we have all this, footage of him saying and behaving otherwise, very flippantly, for a very serious matter. Be very interesting. We'll see. Time will tell. What else I got? If you were watching Shiva Sunday, you'll know how my wife feels about the case with, I think, Tory Lanez, Daystar, and the state. Was it the state of California? No, I don't know what state it was, but yeah, it's been interesting, right? So I posted on Facebook about this probably about a month and a half ago, just because I was seeing right around when Drake dropped that song, and he had that, what seemed to be a dig at Meg. We have to do better, yo. This is the same thing. Sometimes when I talk about it, I say, it's all one thing. Here's another example of it. I'm describing here, in a different case, have a bit of disappointment because on social media, some of my brothers, I saw them posting a lot of hatred for Megan Thee Stallion. They had believed that she is a liar and, rooting for her to lose. That she's a liar and also a slut, because apparently when that came out, apparently, there had to be some discourse about her relationship to Daystar and her relationship. At the end of the day, she did get shot in the foot. She was a victim of a situation. A black woman who got shot in the foot. And there was something about the context of the situation that I think caused a lot of dudes, a good amount of dudes, a significant number of dudes, to fall into this camp where Tory Lanez was the person that was in need of support. Tory Lanez was the victim. Information be damned. And I think it's just weird. It's again, it points to, we have the blogosphere, the black blogosphere in this case, is as bad as the white blogosphere, by the way. It's all one thing. And we have to understand there's these ideas and tropes that exist out there. And part of the media game is to be able to ride into those. It isn't to ascertain truth. That's the media sort of business part of it. See, journalism, I think a journalist is someone who is interested in, is attempting to ascertain and then explain truth. Willing to, interested in, able to discern and then describe truth. And that's what a journalist is. I think that is an important working definition for what a journalist is. And so journalism is the process of doing that. There are skills involved, both on the perception end and on the descriptive end. And I'll need to get into this further, you know what I'm saying, at some point, and I intend to. And I love seeing there's a lot of discourse already. I see people talking about it in this way, being aware that sort of these divisions that we see have a lot to do with the nature of how we're sharing information with each other. And that some of us are interested in clicks, and some of us are interested in being seen rather than interested in truth. And beyond the people interested in like getting clicks, like some of us are not aware yet or are still working. We're working to understand how deeply powerful the position of perceiver is. The perception is not neutral. So, if we can understand that the perception is not neutral, then part of our game is to develop a sense of what the perception and the perceiver is bringing to the table. Because that's why people are seeing things differently and choosing to see and choosing to have solid assessments early. It's a bit too confident. The lack of understanding about the perceiver, about oneself, and the role that you play in your ability to observe leaves you in a place where you have a bit too much confidence. a bit of too much it kind of obscures the sense that the picture is less, the picture is more complex. So those are kind of in the same camp for me. Those are two cases that are different, but they deal with, similar things. Truth, journalism, perception, awareness. Those are similar. I've been playing with this thing where I think we should. I've been saying more about pointing to something, pointing to, rather than saying what something is. If I'm trying to describe something, I want to say that I'm pointing to it, uh, which just gives a little bit of a sense that I'm attempting this, but that I might not be describing it well, you know, and or that I'm or that I might not know enough to describe it well. I think that is that's like the condition of things. A lot of times, you have a feeling, and you will have to use the language you have available to yourself to describe it. So if I have a feeling in my stomach, do I call it an anxiety? Do I call it a fear? Do I call it an anger? you know? And so, and then there's a thing that happens once I call it that. First off, some people in some cultures have dozens of words in that space. I could probably go on a bit more. I could do a little bit more, but is it a feeling? Is it an urge? I don't know. Urge, like, but some people don't. The fewer words you have in that space, the less likely you are to describe and understand and step into an experience, because whatever experience, whatever word you have, if you're a young boy and anger is the word, anger is the feeling, is the way you interpret feelings. You don't interpret feelings. Feelings are not to be accessed, and you should be angry about them. Then if anger is that mode, then that's where you'll go with it, when in fact you have the potential for lots of other modes, once you've accessed a feeling, but that you can only interpret it in one way. This is your limitation, but it is powerfully your limitation. It is what you bring to it. You've created it. You've manifested it together with the whatever the truth is. That's an interesting thing. And someone else who has more access and more range and more malleability and creativity and awareness and openness, can access more things and place it differently, and then move forward differently. Um, so this actually, all this stuff I'm saying here about pointing to, I think it's important because I'm acknowledging myself here as I describe something. I think sometimes I've been watching on social media, myself included. I'd be like, yo, so this is what happened. I'm trying to describe something, and I go, so then the car did this and this and that. I'm going to give a better example than that. When trying to figure out why the tree fell, I have a theory on it, right? It was really wet, and then it had rained literally for like 24, maybe 36 hours. Then it got really cold, and so the water, the ground is really moist, and then it got really cold, and that temperature difference, and that it weakened the roots down there, and then there was really a lot of wind on that day. It was windy as hell, and that's my working thing, and I can say that is what happened, But again, it's like there's deeper stuff. If I sign off there and say that's what happened, I can find out more later. So in fact, I forgot, but the dude who cut it down told me that there were rotting parts of the tree. It was an older tree, he says, and there were parts of it that were rotted. I didn't see that. I didn't spend the time that he did. He was in there. He was out there in the cold, cutting down this tree into multiple different pieces. And he noticed rot. And maybe there's an element of rot in the equation that I didn't have before, right? And so was I wrong? Was I wrong? No, I was pointing to something. I was trying to give you my best assessment, rather than to tell you what happened and what is. And so I think for some people too, like the people who were rooting for or seem to be giddy about the idea that Meg Thee Stallion is a liar, it could be the case that you read the blog tells you apparently she lied at first to the police. She said that she stepped in glass. She didn't want to implicate anyone in any sort of a gunplay situation, and she was trying to protect people at the time. Okay? So you read that, the blogs went with that, and for some reason, that interpretation is enough for you to think that you know everything that happened. That's not good. Important to notice that. But everybody should be willing to notice that. So then you get into this thing, and you were pointing at something. You didn't have it, You weren't there. But our language doesn't always give for that. So I'm gonna propose a way of entering discourse that sort of acknowledges my role as perceiver, so pointing to, and the ability to sort of add those words is actually going to bring me into the next thing. Let me see. This is the last thing I want to talk about real quick from the news, which is but I'm not going to talk about it in full. I want to come back and end off with something Christmas about, but talking about forbidden words. Apparently, let's go to this real quick. All right, so apparently Stanford put out this word initiative, elimination of harmful language initiative. And, it's interesting. It's an interesting document. But I was made aware of it through Ben Shapiro, who I try to watch sometimes, so you don't have to. So Stanford's index of forbidden words list is dumb. Okay, so forbidden words, that's not great. I'm not a fan of forbidden things, especially from on high. Some high powerful order wants to forbid us from some action, tell us how to be. We should be opposed to that. And I think that's actually one of the very few things that Ben Shapiro and I seem to have in common. He would typically say that. He seems to think he's a libertarian, but at the same time thinks it's important and valuable to devote a lot of airtime to telling people how to dress and how to be. So he has a bit of a conflict there, but I don't. I think it's important to not have doctrines from on high forbidding us from anything. Or if there are things that we forbid, we come with them together. We arrive at them through an understanding of our shared predicament, right? So things like you don't kill people. Obviously, the reason we don't kill people is not because it's been forbidden by the law or some higher authority. It's because we need that. We as a society wouldn't survive without that. We understand that each of us is a brilliant sentient being, and we give each other that respect. We understand that we wouldn't want to be killed, and so you don't do it for that reason. See, but so let's look at this list though. Let's look at this list because if there are some forbidden stuff, then I certainly am not a fan of this list. So let's check it out. First off, you know what I decided I wanted to do is I wanted to see if it's actually forbidden, right? He says that there are words that are forbidden. So when I type in the word forbidden in search, it is not there. So this is not an index of forbidden words, is it? Let's see. Harmful. Where are we? Okay. F. If we do harmful, harmful's there. Okay. So forbidden is not there. So maybe there's another, like, you know, thesaurus. For him to say, he's a journalist, right? So he's a journalist, and Ben Shapiro's a journalist. He's very serious about his stuff, and this is a story about words. This is a story about the nature of words. And so I imagine he would be careful with his word choices in this thing. And so I'm going to go and check and see if forbidden is not in there, then must there be some other word that is, so let's see, prohibited. Prohibited is not there. Okay, so there are no words that are prohibited either. See, banned. Let's see if banned is in here. Aha! Okay, so banned is in here. Banned is actually one of the words they're saying you should consider using banned instead of blackballed. Interesting. And right off break, I'm open to this conversation because I recognize like words like blackballed. Let's see the context. Assigns negative connotations to the color black, racializing the term. I know that that's a true thing. I know that that's a real thing. I know that a lot of the words in American discourse, common discourse, colloquial discourse, like blackballed, that they have their roots and origins at a different time when black people were considered something less than human. And the use of language at that time wasn't incidental. The use of language at that time was consequential and active. And so it might be something to look at. But no, banned is not one of the words either in this thing. So there's nothing here apparently to ban or, let me check forbidden again. Okay, so no forbidden. So I just want to say straight off the break, if you're a journalist and you're doing a story about a list of words that are being discussed, why would you use the word forbidden? Why would you introduce a word? Couldn't you use a word from the document itself? That would be, can you see right here? So his title says Stanford's Index of Forbidden Words list is done. Why would you introduce the word forbidden unless it's in the document, right? So let's see what this document actually says. This document, the elimination of harmful language is a multi-phase, multi-year project to address harmful language in IT at Stanford. So this is an internal document in IT at Stanford. Interesting. EHLI is one of the actions prioritized in the Statement of Solidarity and Commitment to Action, which was published by the Stanford CIO Council and People of Color and Technology Affinity Group in December 2020. The goal is to eliminate many forms. See right there, the word eliminate is interesting. I want to look into that, and I think it's interesting they have an asterisk here. Is to eliminate many forms of harmful language, including racist, violent, and biased slurs, disability, ethnic bias, ethnic slurs, gender bias, implicit bias, sexual bias, language in Stanford websites and code. Again, an inside document of how they want to speak and engage in discourse in Stanford, in IT at Stanford, it seems. Okay. The purpose of this website is to educate people about the possible impact of the words we use. Language affects different people in different ways. We are not attempting to assign levels of harm to the terms on this site. We are also not attempting to address all informal uses of language. I think that's interesting. Okay, so there's a lot of, okay, let's keep going. This website focuses on potentially harmful terms used in the United States, starting with a list of everyday language and terminology. Our suggested alternatives are in line with those used by peer institutions and within the technology community. Content warning: this website contains language that is offensive or harmful. Please engage with this website at your own pace. Okay. So right off the break, I want to see what this asterisk is because this stands out to me. They want to eliminate words, it seems, or harmful language, and I want to know what that means to them. And they're saying here, we understand that it may not be possible to eliminate all harmful language on our sites and in our code due to costs, resources, and other reasons. Eliminate is a goal to strive for even if it can't be achieved. Yeah. Cool. That sounds good. That sounds very different from a list of forbidden words, right? You see how very intentionally from the break this supposed journalist is introducing his own word that rightly, if I saw a forbidden words list, it would conjure for me a sense that some powerful organization is trying to tell me how to speak. And that isn't good. It would perk me up. And so there's a problem there. There's a problem with that choice off break to use this as a title, to introduce the word forbidden. He could have used address harmful language. Stanford's index of, Stanford index of forbidden words list. Is it so? Even this is in quotes, right? Index of forbidden words list. Where is that? What is he quoting here? So bad. Why is this in quotes, right? Index of forbidden words list in quotes. So as we navigate 2023 and the future together, every moment together going forward, we have to be careful with this stuff because as we're saying here, whether it's Hannity, whether it's the media around the Daystar case, things that the Daily Wire wants to put out, whether it's our conversations with each other on Instagram and Twitter and all that, like, I think it's powerful to be mindful. What am I trying to say here? I think we have to step into like our roles together as journalists, because a lot of the joint that came out was with Daystar or with Tory Lanez was between us. It was us. It was our quick moving discourse and quick moving stories. But like, lives are at stake. Like, people, there are serious things that are at play, as we are interacting with each other, and we do so very flippantly. I think in part because we don't necessarily understand again this lens thing and this thing. I think that I'm going to get into the Ben Shapiro stuff more deeply in another video. I'm going to devote a whole video to it. I'm going to break down all the ways that he's being misleading and he leads people to feel more and more that the walls are closing on them, right? Because that's how you feed viewership and clicks, and that's how you get people to sign up for the Daily Wire Plus. And that's why that's a harmful thing. It's a very harmful thing, and we have to be aware of that. But I want to end with just like, we talk about these shifts happening in society and some of the generational shifts, and one of the things that people say sometimes, rightly, I think it's a fair observation to notice that children aren't playing outside as much. People are inside, people are in their homes, and they're away from each other. That was true pre-pandemic. I think now it's obviously even more true for all the reasons everybody understands. We've made outside scary. There's lots of scary stuff outside. Beyond just the particles and things in the air, but also that. Also now we live in a space of a sense that there are airborne things and that we are all pathogens for this, and we need to be mindful of each other. And so we close up. And so we don't trust each other. And so we look at each other funny when someone does something they can't help, like sneeze. Some people don't want to, I think, put on their mask, you know. I think we have to find ways to connect in real life and to have personal experiences that involve touch and involve firsthand sounds of vibration through the air, through our talking, that involve other sensory phenomena that I don't think that we can properly categorize or that we have labels and words for, but that there's something missed. I think we know that intuitively, but we can make it clear and explicit and intentional. We can be intentional about trying to bridge the gaps of our screens, you know, and fare out with each other and to have fun with each other, because there's something deeply problematic about the nature of the secondhand experience and the second, you know, like when this goes back to some other thoughts about how we experience each other. You know, we experience our ideas first, you know, and our capacity to break through our ideas of something and actually experience it every step you take away from the firsthand experience, you lose a bit. And that's why at every point you believe that you're trusting that the person sharing the story, the person is giving you the right context, can give you as much information as they can. So this phenomenon of retracting back into our homes is one that makes sense, but I think it makes sense given the context and the narratives. But I'm just excited and encouraged by all the efforts to meet in person and to organize and to show love and to play and to dance and all that. Like I'm not going to stop going out. And I think we should try to do that, because it's part of I think part of the problem in this moment is the reliance on the explanation, the description, on the secondhand narrative, you know, on the label, on the word, on the avatar, on the symbol. I was trying to identify this phenomenon that I think is very latent and persistent in our experience, but that we don't talk about a lot. And there's a word in psychology called transference, and I think it has to do with this. It has to do with our experience, where we latch onto another experience, another feeling, another memory, another connection, and we latch onto that, and we fail to be present in the moment. We fail to take on the complexity of what we're actually looking at. We have this shorthand over here. It has its own, you know, this is the same thing that I'm trying to point to. I'm trying to point to a phenomenon here. I'm trying to point to a feeling. I'm trying to point to a reality. I'm trying to point to an experience that is innate to us, where one of the best ways to better and best ascertain what is true, to be able to perceive truth, you have to like kind of know yourself. You have to understand your biases, understand the limitations of your perception, understand the limitations of your language as you go on. Now, once you perceive, then you try to describe. You've added another challenge, actually. Actually describing it is another challenge because you have to be mindful of the language of the audience, and you're doing that. And if you're doing this professionally, right, you're doing it. There's even more at play. Your editors and the higher ups and the pace and the tone and the tenor of your description will be in accordance with a set of norms in a certain place, and they have certain interests and values imbued in that as they ask you for your ideas and for your perception. So this transference thing is key because in every direction, from the people involved in a thing to the people perceiving it, to the people describing it, to the people receiving the description, we have these opportunities to latch on to certain symbols and labels and descriptions and avatars, this other layer of phenomena that isn't the thing, that isn't as deep and as complex as the actual thing is. And so I think, as I've been trying to describe, this is a phenomena that plays itself out, and in different arenas we call it different things. And so this is sometimes a racist event, sometimes this is a sexist event, a misogynist event, sometimes there are other ists and other lenses to describe it. And those lenses exist really because that's where certain thought has congealed, right? We congeal around like a political analysis for race because we understand that race was a constructed phenomena, and this was the lens that slaveholders constructed and imbued it in the language and imbued it in the law. They made it up and then made it manifest in the norms and the customs and the expectations of everyday life. And so, it's worth looking sometimes at our words again and improving our framing. And it's worth to kind of be present. To be present, for me, has been used to come to a place of ease where a lot of these definitions of self can be let down, because these definitions and narratives of self, these archetypes, these ideals that I've constructed, they become sources of anxiety, right? They're places like they kind of ground me. Like I wanna be like certain people, right? There's certain people that I've seen in life and I've taken them on, but I want to be present. I want to be myself, and that's where the truth is. And the same is true. That's why if you sit across from someone and you meet someone, that's what truth is. It's this moment that you two have together, and you both will come with a different thing. And maybe one of you really thought the night went well, and the other one thought the night went terrible. And so you actually come away with two separate truths about what the night was, even though you were both there and you both created it. So the only way to bridge that is, if they want to at all, the two people have to communicate about what happened and what went wrong, what was interesting, what caused it to be great for you, what caused it to be bad for you, what were the ups and downs, how detailed can we get into that, how can you describe it? Yeah, I just didn't like. Or do you feel truly open to describe it? Like, are you in a position, have I really genuinely given the space for you to describe it, or have I only superficially done so? And you know quietly that there are punishments, and there are, like, certain things will be, I guess it's really not a true space for discourse about the moment, you know? That's something to be mindful about. I think I'm splattering a bunch of stuff, but I think it's just a powerful thing to kind of, this season for me is a dope thing with family, and I realize that that's a huge thing for me. I like the idea of building traditions, and so I feel really confident that I'm in the process of doing that. So I feel really excited. I know that that's what the moment is for me. For a lot of times I felt, again, with my mom, it was me, my mom, and my brothers. We had traditions in a sense, you know, but I let them slip. I wasn't really, you know, pushing, and nobody else really was either. I guess we would meet sometimes in Christmas, and I would come really up to New York, and you know, it's just something that you gotta create. You gotta create it, man. And again, with the tree, it was just a beautiful moment that struck me, how I started off creating a tense, anxious, angry moment, and I could see that I could see myself going further down that path if I wasn't more, you know, capable to be present. Um, the story I tell myself, the story I would tell others, you know, if I were to pass on a story about what happened with the tree. Let me tell you about, you know, it's like, let me tell you about Sheba when I'm trying to fix the problem and da. It's like, bro, live life, be present, be observant, have a creative engagement, you know. Um, Notice that your observations, you're pointing to it. It's not it. You're pointing to it. And value the first person experience. Value a circle of people who, if a first person experience isn't possible, that you would get a full and appropriate and context rich description from them, that they would point with real purpose and with a real effort to understand, not to, you know, try, an effort for you to, you know, to just say, like, just to create. And yeah, that's a lot of stuff there. But 2023 I'm really amped about, because we're gonna do vision boards. This is something we're gonna do, vision boards at the end of New Year's Eve, and this to me is just another creative, like, space, man. We're gonna talk about and create something that we can observe and construct, that is tangible, that we can see every morning as a reminder of what our goals are and our stated purpose is, and how we see things and what we want. and the kind of world we want to live in, the kind of world we want to create. So I'm amped about that. And I'm amped because I know that, this year I'm going to create one of ease and success and joy. And, in the past, it wouldn't have been that. It would always been something, something to accomplish. So I'm excited because this time I don't feel that. And I'm just going to rock out. It's also going to be full of accomplishments. It's going to be full of exciting stuff. But my definitions are improved. My understanding of self is elastic and is broadened, and my values are a little different as well. And that's all okay. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with the old versions of me either. They are still parts of me. And I hope, when things, that you can, it's like, can you access it and be present? And it's all fantastic, y'all. That's the holidays, man. It's a weird time. Sometimes my mom would we would host sometimes, and when I was with my stepdad, and they would have a tree, and sometimes like people from Philly would come, my cousins and my aunts. Would be fantastic. And I couldn't open the presents till after dinner, yo. After dinner. That means no presents till 8 p.m. And I kind of remember just like rolling with that, like not being too upset about it. Just kind of like, oh, that's what it is. No. I was pissed about it. But I guess I eventually built a lot of patience with that. Anyway. Yo. That's it. This is my last one for 2022. I really hope that everybody got to enjoy the holidays however you celebrate. I hope that you are with people you love. And I hope that you can start 2023, refining only the best experiences from 2022 and building and being surrounded by love and feeling free and validated, okay? Love you. Happy 2023 or happy holidays. Happy everything. Peace.